Hey, today we are continuing a series called Let's Make a Deal, and it's so good to be all together, isn't it? Come on. Not first and second service. There's some people, y'all know this, and they're tuning in online going, why is church going on at this time? We're confused. They're going to roll up in here at 11:15 because they forgot. How many of y'all rolled up in here at 9:30? Come on, raise your hands. Raise them up. Moment of transparency here. Yes. I won't tell you who, but we had somebody actually singing on stage today that forgot that the service was at 10 o'clock, so don't feel so bad, all right? So if you're a guest, you're a VIP, if you'd stop by the tents on your way out, I know there's a lot going on today, and I'll give you some instructions at the end of our service of what to expect outside. But stop by the VIP tents. Let us know you're here. We just want to help you connect in any way possible. There's also a QR code on the back of the chair in front of you. You can scan. Let us know you're here. Follow us on social media on Facebook, and you can also like and share this wherever you're at, even right here at this moment, to get the word out of what's happening. But follow us on social media to stay in tune with what's happening. If you don't have social media, hopefully you still have email. And we do send out an email every week as well. For those of you who are like, email, what is that? Okay, we do still send that out. So stay in tune with what's going on. It's the only way we can communicate with a crowd this size. So we are in, I think it's week 4 now, or week 3 or 4 of this series, Deal or No Deal, week 4. And basically what we're talking about in week 1, on October 10th of this month, we specifically talked about how God made the greatest deal in all of history when he gave his son Jesus with no strings attached. And we just received that free gift of salvation in our lives. And then we've unpacked over the last few weeks several other things you can catch up online on. But a few weeks ago, we talked about this man by the name of Simon Peter, who was called to follow Jesus by the Sea of Galilee. And we'll turn back to that a little bit and give you a little history there, and then fast forward into his life a little bit more. But how many of you guys have ever seen the show Deal or No Deal? Come on. Yes, okay. I found it very interesting that Howie Mandel has this phobia of touching people, and he wouldn't shake hands. He's like a germaphobe, but he's in there with all those people. But how many of y'all would always scream, take the deal? Come on, anybody? How many of y'all risk it all? How many of y'all said, if it was my money, I would have took it? All right, you want to risk? We want them to risk, but you wouldn't risk it. And inevitably, what would happen is somebody wouldn't take the deal, and more often than not, they would lose a big chunk of money, right? Or they wouldn't take it, and then they would gain, and then they wouldn't take it again. And rarely, more often than not, you would see them lose money that they had in their pocket, so to speak, at the game. And here's what I want us to talk about today. I want to challenge you to really step in and accept the deal that God has offered us through Christ Jesus. And we'll talk a little bit more about that today. But there's a man that we've been talking about in the series called Simon Peter, or Peter, as we know him. And he was called by Jesus at the Sea of Galilee. Now, this is when Jesus was living here on earth. He lived a sinless life, and ultimately he would die a sinner's death. And as after about 30 years here on this earth, he calls his disciples to follow him. Now, Simon Peter and his friends are down by the sea, and they're fishing, and they're coming in after a long night of fishing. They have empty nets. They're cleaning their nets. Jesus has crowds of people gathering around to follow him and listen to him teach. And he goes to Simon Peter and he says, hey, can I get in your boat? He just gets in the boat, doesn't even ask. And he says, will you push out? I want to speak to the people from off the shore because I can speak to more people. So he gets in the boat with Simon Peter, and ultimately then later he looks at Simon Peter and he tells him to throw his nets over the side of the boats. Now, if you weren't here a few weeks ago, the reason this is I think a monumental moment is that Simon Peter's a professional fisherman. He's carrying on his family's business, and he's caught nothing all night long. So for a man to get in his boat without permission and then to tell him how to fish is a little bit in your face. And so he throws his net over after catching nothing all night long, and they pull in this haul of fish. Unlike they had never seen before, it represented the greatest catch they had ever had, the most money they would have ever made from their haul of that catch. And they have to tow it in with 2 boats. And then Jesus gets to the shore, and he says specifically to them, now leave it all. Leave all the money, leave all the things that you know, leave your comfort zone. Because in that moment, they had a very great opportunity. They had a lot of comfort, a lot of peace, knowing their financial stability was covered for weeks, months, maybe even ahead. And he said, leave it all and follow me. And so because they believed at that moment, Simon Peter said, you know what, there's something different about you. He calls him Lord. He follows him. And then Jesus goes on to call his other disciples to follow him. And then he spends 3.5 years with his disciples, teaching them to obey the commandments of Jesus, teaching them to unlearn some things about their Jewish upbringing and learn more things about how Jesus lived his life. And then he challenged them in Matthew 28:19 and 20. He tells them to go in the world and to change the world, to preach the gospel, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But in the meantime, Simon Peter is, I feel his pain. I don't know about you, there's a little bit of me that has a little bit of a compulsive nature. Any of you guys feel that way? Like you just sometimes respond in a moment and you don't know how to control maybe what the emotions are. I think that's most of America. And so I have this, I can identify with what Peter's going through. Because Peter's the same guy that says, I love you, Jesus, I'll never turn my back on you. But he's a guy that when Jesus is coming to be arrested, he cuts off a soldier's ear. He tries to protect the Son of God. He does all kinds of things that Jesus has to rebuke him for. He actually calls him Satan at one time. I don't know, I've had some bad days. I've been called a lot of bad things. Nobody's ever called me Satan. And if you have, please don't tell me, all right? But at the end of the day, there's this moment in his life where Jesus is about to be arrested. He's about to be arrested and go to the cross. And as he's about to be arrested, he has this dinner known as the Last Supper, the Passover meal with his disciples. And he tells them, this is the bread, this is the wine representing the broken body and the blood that I'm going to shed on the cross for the forgiveness of sins. And he tells them, one of you is going to deny me 3 times. One of you is going to disown me. And so Judas later would sell Jesus out and he would disown Jesus. But Simon Peter would say, well, all of these might deny you, but I will never deny you. And he says, yeah, you're going to do it 3 times before the rooster crows. So fast forward, now Jesus is standing judgment. He's going before the sentencing, so to speak, and Peter is watching from afar. Peter sees what's happening, and Peter is freaked out. The man who says he will never deny him, over the course of the next few hours, 3 different times would deny Jesus. So much so that the last time he actually called down curses on himself. And he says, I don't know the man. I have no idea who this man is. And so the man who just spent 3.5 years pouring his life into him, now he's denying even knowing him. And you say, where are we going with this? Here's what I believe. I believe over the last couple of years, and maybe even over the last few decades for some of you, but specifically over the last intense few years, 18 months or so, there are many people who followed Jesus casually, but then when it got hard, abandoned him. Hear me. Or they ended up going and doing things that were more comfortable than actually following him through the hard things. And so we pick up in Matthew chapter 26. Jesus has died. He has he's been resurrected, and now he's appearing to his disciples. And we're going to read some of that here in a moment. But listen to what happens in Matthew chapter 26. Now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him. This is while Jesus is being sentenced. It says, you also were with Jesus in Galilee, she said, but he denied it before them all. He said, I don't know what you're talking about, he said. Then he went out into the gateway where another servant girl saw him, and he said to the people there, this fellow, talking about Peter, was with Jesus of Nazareth. He denied it again with an oath, saying, I don't know the man. In other words, I swear to you, I don't know him. After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, surely you are one of them. Your accent gives it away. He was from southern Israel, and you'll get that later. And so it says, then he began to call down curses, and he swore to them, I don't know the man. And immediately the rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken. Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside, and he wept bitterly. I don't know about you, but this is so reflective of so many people that I know. And even in my own life at times where I would make some decision, or I would go through some season of life, and then I would have these doubts or these fears, and I would have this remorse and this regret. And I'm going to talk to several groups of people today, but the first group of people that I want to talk to, I want to say this to you today. Hear me, a bad decision does not have to be the definition of your life. That's some good news for some people, because some of y'all got a list, don't you? Some of y'all ready to tell me your husband's list of bad things. At the end of the day, though, hear me, you cannot let the divorce define you. I'm not suggesting there was not some things that you should take ownership of and that may or may not have been your fault, but it cannot be the definition of your future. The hidden stuff that you don't want anybody to know about, that nobody knows about, that you continue to dabble in, the bad decision that led to an addiction, the bad decision that has you now captive or in chains, that cannot define you. There's something better for your life. The blow up, where you lost it, the bankruptcy, the failed relationship, the hurt you have caused, the sexual rendezvous of your past or your present. Listen, you can't let them define your life. Jesus came to give you another definition. Hear me, you also can't let the decisions someone else caused in your life, something somebody else did, the decisions they made to define your life. But too many people have allowed the decisions in their life, you've let it define you, and you've let it send you down a trail away from God's purposes for your life. You've allowed the dysfunction of your past, either your decisions or somebody else's decisions, the things that you felt so guilty of, the things that you felt so remorseful of, the things that you, young lady, cried yourself to sleep at night, young man, the things that you feel so guilty of because you've taken advantage of someone, mom, dad, the things you feel guilty of as a parent, or some sin in your life or something hidden in your life. Listen to me, God came to give you a new definition. And we've wandered away from God's plans and purposes. Look what happens to Peter. Jesus dies, he's resurrected, and now he's on this mission to appear to his disciples to say, yo, it's me. See the scars? Like, it's me, I'm alive, it's okay, I told you I was gonna do this, and I know you freaked out, but Peter's now gone back to fishing. This is so ironic. I talked about this in Easter of 2020, and on a video we did, and if you watch and you tune in, it's so powerful what Jesus is about to do, because what Jesus is about to tell Peter is, I know everything about you, but I still love you. And so Peter goes back to fishing. Here's how it picks up in John 21, verse 1 and 2. Afterward, Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Galilee. Now, where did he appear when he called them? By the Sea of Galilee, also known as the Lake of Gennesaret, if you read it, I think in Matthew's version, it says, it happened this way. Now, I think it's interesting that John is going to tell us how it happened, and it almost happens exactly like it happened the first time, except this time there were no crowds of people. This time Jesus came not for the crowds, but for one person. And he says, Simon Peter, Thomas, also known as Didymus, I don't know why, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and two other disciples were together. So Peter says to them, I am going out to fish. In other words, I'm going back to my old job. I'm going back to my old way of life. I'm going out to do what I'm comfortable doing. I'm going out to do what I've done all my life. I'm going back to my comfort zone. And Simon Peter said to them, told them, and they said, we will go with you. Because they're lost. They're confused. So they went out, they got in the boat, but that night, guess what? They caught nothing. Similar experience. Professional fishermen catching nothing. Same exact thing that happened the time when Jesus called them. They went back to the very thing they left. What causes us to go back to our past? What causes us to abandon our relationship with God or turn away and do our own thing? Can I propose to you that it's guilt, it's shame, it's loneliness, it's failure, it's hurt, it's something that somebody did to you. Sometimes it's just simply that's where we're more comfortable, because sometimes serving Jesus is not easy. In fact, serving Jesus, if it's easy, you're probably not doing it right. And at the end of the day, serving Jesus is more than just an experience that you had one time and then you just kind of kept on in your own life. It's about laying down your life, denying yourself, taking up your cross, as Jesus would say, and following him. But what's happened is we've let our decisions define us. You've let your decisions define you, and ultimately what happens is we start thinking, well, why does God even care? I've messed up too much. Anybody ever felt that way? Come on. How can God even love me? He knows all about me. He knows I've turned my back on him. He knows I've denied him. He knows I've continued. I wasn't going to do it, and I did it again. I wasn't going to go into another relationship, and I did it again. I wasn't going to do this, and I did it again. I hurt somebody else. I continued down this path, and you wonder, why would God even care about you if you did that? Now, Jesus was about to go to the cross at one of the most intense moments of his life, and Peter says, I don't even know him. And Jesus comes looking for him. And today, hear me, I believe that Jesus is standing on the shore of some of your life saying, hey, I'm not done with you yet. I have a plan for you. You say you want to be forgiven by God, you want to be used by God, you want to be different, but how? I've done too much. And Jesus is standing on the shore of your life, just like we're about to see here, and he's calling out, hey, throw your net over the other side. And you're like, that must be Jesus. Because there was another time in my life where I recognized that voice. I recognized I recognized that he saw me and he asked me to do something. He commanded me to do something. He requested that I do something. But here you got to understand something. You say, I want to make a difference. First of all, some of you just need to give your life to Jesus. But others of you, you say, I've given my life to Jesus, but I don't really have a purpose. I don't have a plan. The people that God uses the most are the ones that hang on to the least. This is where American Christianity gets hard. By the way, there's no such thing as American Christianity. It's just Christianity. But we've made our own version of it. And our version is hang on to the most and squeak in with Jesus. This is just enough. You say things like, I don't know about you, but I used to read the Bible, and I would wonder, is this the same story that I read before? Have you ever, like when you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John tell similar accounts of many of the same eyewitness stories that they all experienced. And you're like, wait a second, which Mary am I reading about, right? Which Joseph is this? There's one in Genesis, and then there's one here in Jesus. Now, this story is one of those that's about to happen. I read this story, and I'm like, wait a second. There's two stories that are basically identical, that are on two totally different seasons of Peter's life, and the answer to this is yes. It says, early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus, and he called out to them, friends, haven't you any fish? No, they answered. You know it wasn't like, no. It was like, no, we've been here all night. Why are you asking? No. And he said, throw your net on the right side of the boat, and you'll find some. When they did, they were unable to haul in the net because of the large number of fish. The same exact thing that happened. Now, Jesus has died, resurrected, and he's appearing to his disciples before he's going to heaven. This is the same thing that happened just 3+ years ago when he said, hey, yo, you don't know who I am, but throw your net on the... And they say, oh, wow, this man's different. And now he's alive. Now, listen to this. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter. Now, I think this is pretty arrogant. John is writing this, and he calls himself, John, the one that Jesus loves. Y'all got that kid, don't you? I'm mama's favorite, right? John is also the one that says, when they ran to the tomb, John outran Peter. He's not only Jesus' favorite, he's also fast, okay? This guy has his own problems, but he loved Jesus, and it says, it is the Lord. And it said, as soon as Simon Peter heard John say that it is the Lord, he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken it off, I don't know what that means, and he jumped into the water. And the other disciples followed, but they stayed in the boat, towing in the fish. This is great. Peter, compulsive, he just jumps in. I'll see y'all later. For they were not far from shore, about 100 yards. I'm like, how far is far? They got to tow all these fish in a paddle boat? And it says, when they landed, they saw a fire burning coals there with fish on it and some bread. And Jesus said to them, bring some of the fish you have just caught. Now pause. Peter arrives back on shore, and not only does he realize it's Jesus, but he sees this fire of burning coals. Do you know there's only 2 times in the whole Bible where we see a fire of burning coals? The first time is when Jesus is standing and being sentenced, and guess where Peter is standing beside warming his hands? A fire of burning coals. That's at the moment Peter denies him the 3rd time and says, calls down curses and says, I don't even know the man. He's standing by a fire of burning coals. Now, Jesus, can you say irony? Yeah. So Jesus shows up on the shore and he says, hey, y'all, I'm going to build you a fire of burning coals because you remember when you did that? I saw it. Remember when you denied me? You were worried about keeping your little mittens warm. I was about to die for you. Does this sound like American Christianity? Jesus died for us, but God forbid we do anything for him that's out of our comfort zone. And what Jesus is saying is, I saw all the selfishness. I saw all the, it's all about me. I saw you warming your hands. And by the way, I built a fire to remind you and tell you, in case you didn't know, I saw it. It says, so Simon Peter climbed back in the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153. But even with so many, the net was not torn. So Jesus says, bring me some fish, basically. Jesus already has fish. He's already cooked them. But he asked him for the fish. I don't know why, but I think it's to say, hey, look, I still have value in your life. I could do it all on my own, but I've chosen to use you. I've chosen for you to be a part of a bigger plan. It says, Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast. None of the disciples dared ask him, who are you? Because they knew it was Jesus. And Jesus came, took the bread and gave it to them. And he did the same with the fish. This is how now the third time that Jesus had appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. Now listen, there's so many people that I hear say, I want to follow Jesus, I want to do what's best, but you keep going back to your comfort zones. You keep going back to the things of your past. You won't let go of the things that are holding you back. You won't let go of the things that make you feel good about your life. And so we find, we want this plush Christianity where it's comfortable. And online church has made it even worse, hasn't it? Come on, somebody. I ain't even got to take a shower to go to church. Some of y'all are like, I was supposed to do that? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You was. Ask the person next. No, just don't do that. Here's how we do church on Sundays. Sorry if you're watching online. I'm not talking about you. That was the other people last week. But, Pastor, that's good. Keep it down in there. Them dishes is too loud, right? Come on. You know as well as I do, about 3 minutes in, there's the distraction, right? And let's be honest. We'll block off 4 hours and 2 hours worth of grilling to make sure we don't miss a moment of the Georgia game. But God forbid Pastor Carl go more than 32 minutes on a Sunday. And so we want comfort, and so we begin looking from things from the past. Things that bring comfort to us. I'm Peter taking off my outer garment. And so we end up in the spirit of Halloween. I've not tried this, so hopefully it fits. See, it's not just about, listen, we will do whatever we can to feel comfortable and cozy. Somebody asked me if they could have this when I'm done. Sure, I don't care. Little swag. God, serving you's hard. Serving you's hard, and so I just, especially when you know my past, you know what I've done, and like letting go and shedding all of that and staying away from comfort. See, this stuff doesn't just represent laziness or apathy, right? It represents your old habits that you continue to hold on to, your bad decisions, your old way of life. Your old friends that are still your friends. The people in your life that have caused you hurt and pain that you continue to go back to because you don't know what else to do. Material things in your life. Your schedule because you're used to that grind. That's all you know. And so you continue to just go back to stuff. For some of you, listen, hear me. For some of you, it's your childhood trauma. If God loved me, then why did that happen to me? And you snuggle, and you hold on to that childhood trauma, and you won't let nobody in. And you wonder why you're so lonely and so dysfunctional. And you can't maintain healthy relationships, and you don't have joy in your life. That's because it's like every night when you go to bed, you tuck in your childhood trauma with you. And it's not because God doesn't love you that you went through that, Or it's not because you're not good enough that you actually did that as a child or the mistakes you made. It's because we're human and humanity is sinful. And so, as if this is not enough in our current American context, we now have weighted tranquility blankets. Now hear me, I am not making fun or making light of anybody who struggles with anxiety. But I need you to hear something. If we're not careful, we'll find ourselves trying to find comfort and peace in everything that we can find in this world. And we will just rest in what is comfortable in the moment. And like Peter and the disciples, we're paralyzed in fear. And too many church-going people, I'll stop short of calling us Christians, this is how we live our life. Praise the Lord. God, we will like and share and say amen on social media. And what happens, hear me, when we live our life like this, outside the purposes of Jesus and outside of his calling on our life, what we end up doing is latching on to purposes like politics, like causes that really don't change the world, they just make a minimal impact. We'll go back to things and to doing things that get us through day-to-day life and make us feel better, like fishing and catching fish in our old ways of life. Come on. And we say, I want God to do something in my life. I want to fulfill God's purposes in my life, but I only want to do it as long as it doesn't cost me too much. As long as I can hang on to some stuff. Hear me. That's not the way the kingdom of God works. It is his kingdom. And so what has to happen is you and I have to have a new focus and new priorities. Everything has to change. So hear me, in order for you to achieve your destiny, you must step out of your history. You can't do both simultaneously. You can't. You can't go back to fish and be what Jesus called you to be, fishers of men. That's what he told Peter. I'm going to make you fishers of men. From now on, you're going to fish for people. You're going to take my message, my cause, the love and the good news and the gospel of Jesus Christ to the world. You can't do it from the boat at night doing the things that I'm not saying you don't need a job. I'm not saying you don't need to provide for your family. I'm saying don't go back to the comfortable things. And it says this in John chapter 21, verse 15. It says, when they had finished eating. Y'all can't handle this, can you? Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Now he looks at Peter around the fire of coals. Peter's all right, this is awkward. He said, yes, Lord. He said, you know I love you. And Jesus said, feed my lambs. This is the same thing. In other words, go tell the world, tell my people that I have a plan for them. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And he answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, then take care of my sheep. In other words, do what I've called you to do. Quit doing your own thing. Quit trying to go back to you. You do what I've called you to do, not what's comfortable. The third time, he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Now, this is remarkable. Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time. Y'all know butthurt Christians? Come on. Can I say that in church? Like everything offends them. But they have no idea how much they offend other people and offend God themselves. Wow, I'll say it louder for the people in the back now. Come on. He said he was hurt because he asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things and you know that I love you. And Jesus said, then feed my sheep. Do what I called you to do. Very truly, I tell you, listen to this. When you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. You did what was comfortable for you. You turned your back on me. You said, I don't know the man 3 times. But when you were old, the reason you said you didn't know the man is because you didn't want to die on a cross beside me. It says, but when you are old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you where you don't want to go. Hear me. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, ready for this, the same words, follow me. And here's what, so what you did is earlier in your life, Peter, you took all your dysfunction and all your comfort zone. You dressed yourself and you went where you wanted to go. You had your own priorities, your own schedule. You determined what was important to you. Come on. You determined whether money was important, whether sports were important, whether people were important, whether God was important. You determined whether your family was important. You made all those decisions. But there's coming a day, if you want to serve me, that you are going to have to lose all of this stuff. You're going to have to allow God to strip you down to where you're uncomfortable. You're going to have to I can't get out of this thing. And so you have got to allow God to take all of this off. And then what happens is you end up like Peter, where he stands beside the first fire of coals and he denies Jesus 3 times. Jesus reappears by a second fire of coals, and he says, I still have a plan for your life. The reason you denied me 3 times is out of fear. Come on, it's Halloween. I got to talk about fear a little bit. But there's coming a day when you leave all that behind, and you put your trust and faith totally in me. And people are going to dress you and lead you where you don't want to go. And it says that Jesus told him this because he was telling him about the death that he was going to die. You know how Peter ended up dying? He was drugged to a cross. And he was put on a cross. Not to die for the sins of the world, but to die because he actually obeyed the one who died for the sins of the world. And then history records Peter actually said, I'm not worthy to be crucified like my Lord. And he asked them to turn his cross upside down. That's a far cry from this stuff. It's like a far cry from your comfort zone. But listen to me. If we're going to follow Jesus and make a difference for God while we're on this earth, you got to leave your comfort zone. And the last 18 months have put so many people back in their comfort zones. And you say, why in the world would you do, and we hear this from other religious people, why in the world you do a trunk or treat and cancel one service and put all people together? Because what I know is people will come out for 2 things, Easter eggs and candy. And we didn't bring you here today. Somebody said, do we have to have our kids come and show up, or can we just attend the event? No, we want your kids here because we don't want you to just get candy. We want you to get something greater than candy. And that is the fact that Jesus still has a plan for your life. I can give my kid a whole bunch of candy and they can get on sugar highs, but there's something greater that I want them to hear, and that is that if I'll deny myself, take up my cross, and follow Jesus, that nothing can stop the joy of the Lord in my heart and in my soul. So stop wasting your life on comfort zones, because listen, comfort zones and callings cannot coexist. That's a lot of C's that I just made up. So here it is. Take the deal to leave your past behind you and follow the plans God has laid out for you. That's right. If you're going to scream, at least scream at the right time. It won't be easy. In fact, if you do it right, it'll cost you everything. It at least cost you everything the way you wanted it to play itself out. I mean, you still have a family and kids and a job, but it might look a lot different than you thought. So here's my last plea to you before we close. You're here today, you're watching online, you're out on the football field, and you don't have a relationship with Jesus, meaning you've tinkered around, you've done your own thing, but you haven't given your life. You've just been living in your comfort zones, and you say, I don't know if God can even love me. He loves you. He's standing on the shore of your life saying, hey, I remember everything about you, but I came to find you. You see, I didn't find Jesus, he found me. And so whatever you're going through, I'm going to give you a chance to give your heart and life to Jesus in a few moments, and then I'm going to ask you to pray a prayer right there in your seat, and then I'm going to tell you what steps to take. I'm not going to call you out and embarrass you, but then there's others of you, it's time to get off the flipping couch. It's time. Don't waste your life on meaningless things. Okay? And then get to the end of your life and go, where did I make a difference? And so there's two groups of people. People that are just kind of coasting through and just holding things back. And some of you who just need to begin a relationship with God today. Would you close your eyes? With nobody looking around. Maybe you're watching online or outside, and that's you right where you're at. You need to begin a relationship with Jesus. You need to ask him to forgive you of your sins and your past. You've had a hard time believing because of your dysfunction, because of something somebody did to you. But don't let those bad decisions be a definition of your life. He has a new definition, a new life for you today. You say, I want to follow Jesus. When I say 3, come on, you go ahead and start putting your hands up right now. All across this room, outside, online. I want you right where you're at to lift your hands. Come on, 1, 2, 3, hands up. Come on, hold them up, hold them up, hold them up. I'm not going to call you out and embarrass you. Yeah. Hands going up all across. Don't wait. Today is your day. I know you've been packing in chairs. You're sitting in the back. You're all over this place. Come on, raise them up high. Yeah. Now allow God to just in this moment, just say, God, I need you. Just whisper it to God between you and God, I need you. Now, right now, I want you to just say this prayer. If you lift your hands, dozens of people. Dear God, I come to you right now, and I believe Jesus lived a sinless life and died on the cross for my sins. He is the resurrected Son of God. Today, I ask you to forgive me of my sins, be Lord of my life. Help me to live for you from this day forward. Today, I call you my Savior, and today I call you my Lord. In Jesus' name. Now, the next group of people I want to pray for is those of you who say, man, I've been really comfortable, way too comfortable. God's calling me to step out, and I hadn't had the courage to do it. Come on, won't you lift your hands all across this room? Come on, we've been way too comfortable. We got our throw pillows and our blankets and everything. Come on, it's time to make a difference in the world in which we live. God, I pray for every single person with their hand lifted in here or outside or online that you would speak today, you would challenge today, you'd encourage today, that you would allow us by the power of God to step out of our comfort zones and live a life that pleases you, to deny ourselves. If it costs us everything, God, we're willing to do it and to make a difference, to serve, to give, to make a difference in this community, to love our neighbor as ourselves so that we can change the world. It's in Jesus' name we pray. And everybody said, amen. Come on, church. At least 24 people just lifted their hands to follow Jesus. Come on. Yeah. Now listen to me. I'm going to dismiss you in about 2 minutes before we go. The worst thing I could do is have you lift your hand and pray a prayer and not tell you what's next. I can tell you what's next. Something's going to go wrong in your life. Because the enemy is not going to leave you alone. Because you just prayed and said, I want to serve God, and you expect God to be there for you, and the enemy's going to say, God don't care about you. And so Monday's coming is what we like to say. How many of y'all like Mondays? Yeah. Okay, so Monday's coming, which means it's going to get hard. And we want to walk through this journey with you. You're brothers and sisters in Christ. You're part of the family of God now. Welcome home. So we got some people in our prayer and care room that just want to talk to you and be there to pray with you. If you have any questions, answer any questions, and tell you about some next steps here at Relevant Church. We got something starting in January called The Good Life that we want you to jump in. If you've been in The Good Life, come on, tell somebody they need to be in The Good Life. Come on, let them know. This helps you deal with all the junk from your past and be all that God's called you to be. We'd love to help you take your next step of water baptism and get plugged in at Relevant Church and help you find your full potential. So stop by that prayer and care room right by the bathrooms on the curve wall on your way out. I know you got to get your kids. I know all that. All that stuff is important, but it's secondary. We got volunteers. Don't leave your kids all day. That is more important. But we will take care of them, and we will wait on you outside. But hear me. Don't leave without stopping by. And for those of you who say, man, I'm ready. If you're not serving at Relevant Church, you haven't been through First Step, Next Step, Heart and Soul, you haven't done it, get involved. Don't just think you can show up on Sundays 5 minutes beforehand and leave 5 minutes after and make a difference in your local church. You can't do it. Go sign up for First Step. Get involved in that, and they'll tell you how to get connected and what it looks like to be generous and serve and make a difference in your local church. Now, here's what's going to happen. When you leave out of here today, you're going to go get your kids. Before we do the trunk or treat, we're going to have about 15 or 20 minutes before we do the trunk or treat. We're going to fire off some candy cannons on the football field. Your kids can grab all those things. If you brought helmets, that may be good. If you didn't, Dad, you're the helmet. And so, look, don't push, don't shove. We got plenty of candy. Don't be that person. Okay? Don't be that person and then blame the church because they said, hey, can you please not push people? Okay? And so, We'll fire some candy cannons, then we'll send your kids out with you to walk through about 40 cars out there, trunk or treat. Then we'll fire off more candy cannons. All right? So you got plenty of opportunities to get candy, and we'll announce when we're firing off those things. And then we got free hamburgers, free hot dogs for you. And I think Kona Ice is out there for sale if you guys would like to be there. Would you stand with me? And I want to pray over you. And we're going to do something really weird today. It has nothing to do with Jesus. I'll tell you in a minute, okay? So, all right, let's pray. God, we love you. We thank you for your generosity towards us. Challenge us today. Help us to have a good time. Help our kids to enjoy their time out there. Help us to have the right attitude, the right spirit. And God, I just pray we make friends today. In Jesus' name. And everybody said amen? Amen. And everybody said go Braves.